Dairy Trust Taranaki was set up about 6.5 years ago, and what it was bringing together the 3 research and demonstration farms in Taranaki. The purpose or mission of Dairy Trust is to deliver relevant world-class research, demonstration and extension to the farmers of Taranaki and also Aotearoa, New Zealand. We do a lot of research into some of the challenges that dairy farmers are facing, whether that be environmental, emissions, production, profitability, and so we try to share those insights with as many farmers as possible, and also real professionals and trusted advisors of farmers, with the idea that they adopt those learnings, and that helps them improve their own business to be more resilient. A lot of farmers haven't got into farming to do the paperwork, they've got into the farming because they love the land and looking after the land and their animals. The amount of new regulations and compliance and just the time that it takes to work through that, it is one of the biggest challenges we see farmers having, and some of those regulations as well, we work to make sure that they are fit for purpose for Taranaki. We have different soil types here to other regions around Aotearoa, so a one-size-fits-all approach doesn't always work. In Taranaki, there's been a huge amount of work done, particularly around riparian planting of waterways. From a water quality point of view, all farmers want to leave the land better than how they found it. No one wants to make it worse for the next generation, so there's a huge amount of work goes in that farmers don't get enough credit for. We really want the rangatahi who are going to be our future farmers, seeing what we're doing across our 4 farms and learning some of the aspects that we're looking at to try and improve, whether it's emissions or environment, soil quality for farmers of the future. So that's a big focus for ours.
We're measuring the pasture cover with a rising plate meter here in paddock R16. That provides us information with how much grass is currently in the paddock, the growth rate, how much it's grown over the last week, and how much area we need to feed our cows to meet their energy requirements.
From an emissions intensity point of view, New Zealand or Aotearoa is already the lowest in the world. If we want to drive change on farm, we really need it to still stack up financially for farmers, otherwise there's not the incentive there to make that change towards a lower emissions sort of dairy farming system. This farm that we're on is what we call our step change farm, so we've got one of the farms is our control herd, so run like a normal Taranaki dairy farm, and the second herd is what we call our future farm. So there we're looking at reduced inputs to try and reduce emissions and environmental footprint, but maintain or increase profitability. So that's been a really successful first 3 years of that trial, and the 3rd year we are more profitable on that future farmlet. So we're heading from our Dairy Trust Gibson farm across to our Dairy Trust Kavanagh farm, which is next door. Even though the 2 farms are right next to each other, they have very different climatic variations, with the Kavanagh farm being right on the Taranaki coastline. In partnership with both Fonterra and Nestle, we've actually got a net zero farm, or journey to net zero. So what that farm is a practical demonstration for farmers on how to go to net zero emissions over a 10-year period. Dairy Trust Taranaki was formed 6.5 years ago. The predecessor to Dairy Trust Taranaki, there were a number of organisations, one of which was known as TARS, or Taranaki Agricultural Research Station, and that was based out of this site, and they did a lot of work, particularly around changes around the feed fat evaluation index, which was to do with palm kernel being fed to cows, and just making sure what the optimum amount was to be fed before that triggered an issue for Fonterra from their end. That's just one example of many around research, going all the way back to the 70s. This organisation or its predecessors has really worked on to test a lot of those ideas and see whether they do work or not in Taranaki. The other thing is probably getting some of our research probably closer to the consumers as well, the people buying our products. I think there's a real disconnect between the work, say, we're doing or farmers are doing, and then that end consumer and getting recognition for that work. So we're starting to do a lot of consumer survey work. We have a regenerative agriculture trial on our farm at Mahi, and one of the key aspects around that is actually surveying the consumer about the work we're doing and testing some of the claims as well that have been made to consumers around the quality of milk that is supposedly from regenerative agriculture. So there's opportunity there to test some of those theories and really get credit probably for the good work that's already happened in the last 100 years in Taranaki.